have some great folks from our community who have agreed to share their stories with us today by a panel discussion moderated by our very own Carrie. So please welcome Jennifer Wells, Lori Brand, Danika Painter. Real quick, I wanted just to give shout outs to you guys. Jennifer is a fashion designer and has a sweater knitting company with 2 labels called Line and John and Jen. John and Jen, yeah. Lori is a life coach, a speaker, a trainer, a mentor, as well as an ordained metaphysical minister. That's pretty cool. And Danika has a PhD in physiology and works now at Health Canada in Ottawa. So Carrie, take it away. I'm really excited about the next part of our morning because we're going to learn from some experts. First, though, I want Sharika, our PSW, to come up here. So Sharika is here, as I mentioned at the very beginning of the day, to help anyone with anything. Okay, so just wave her down, make eye contact, go up to her, and she's happy to help you with anything you might need. And I know we've also just been coming and going as we want today to be comfortable, and that's what we want. So keep doing whatever you need to do to keep your bodies comfortable and take care of yourself for the remainder of the day. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, so all right, so for the next 40 minutes, we're gonna learn from the experts over here on how they've been living with FSH. And today we have gathered some questions that we sent out to the community that people wanted answers. So we did hear from some people that had specific questions and others had broader thoughts about how to manage the disease. And so with help of Anne Harland, my mentor back there in the green, she brought these ladies together. She helped script the questions that I'm going to answer because this is not my forte. I do not do public speaking, but here we are. Growth opportunities. Okay, so I have a bit of a more in-depth intro, which I'd like to give for each of the ladies here because I think it will paint a picture about when they talk, where they're talking from. So first here we have Danika. She was born and raised in Seattle and received her FSHD diagnosis as a teen when she and her extended family participated in a clinical study at the University of Washington. So I don't know if anyone's read that research. That was a pivotal point in tracking the heredity of the diagnosis. Now a Canadian citizen, she has lived and raised her family in Ottawa for the last 23 years. Danika holds a PhD in physiology and works at Health Canada. She loves being outdoors, backcountry canoe camping with her 2 kids and her dog, and playing jazz piano. So welcome, Danika. Next to her, we have Lori. Lori Brant challenges you to rethink limiting beliefs about disabilities, both your own and others. How you perceive life with an FSH diagnosis shapes your experience. As a full-time wheelchair user, Lori understands how many people make unconscious assumptions, thinking those with disabilities are powerless, sick, and incapable. This affects how they're treated and how they treat and feel about themselves. It also affects their ability to remain in a state of peace and calm while moving through these challenges. Lori Brant has a Bachelor of Psychology, Bachelor of Education, a Master's of Metaphysics, is a certified life coach, speaker, is the author of the Happiness Toolbox and the Alignment Strategy, and certifies others to be life coaches and certified alignment practitioners. And last but not least, Jennifer. Jennifer Wells was diagnosed with FSHD at age 20, shortly after she completed a degree in fashion design. As her mobility slowly declined, she transitioned from wearing AFOs to a wheelchair full-time about 3 years ago. Jennifer built a successful career in the fashion industry, co-founding the Toronto-based sweater knit company Line and John and Jen, with operations in North America and overseas. After decades of international travel and business leadership, recent health changes led to an early retirement. She's now focused on finding new ways to channel her creative energy. So welcome to our panel. Corey, let's start with you. Many individuals with FSHD try to continue to do all the things they have done in some way they've always done it, often with unsatisfying results. Others create new life experiences, different ways of perceiving and doing things, like a smartphone they continuously update. How do you feel perception of circumstances affects success in dealing with FSHD?
Thank you so much for having me on the panel and also for the question. I think absolutely perception is everything. And how I perceive myself as I move through the world with FSH will impact my complete experience of it. When I was first diagnosed, I became a shadow of myself. I really took on the beliefs of the world that somehow if you have a disability, you're incapable or you're no longer contributing, and kind of what's the use, right? And through my journey, I began to really see the power of how I was perceiving what my world could be. So when my brain is focused in on what I can't do or what my life is not going to be, my experience will be just that. It will be limited, it will be small, it will be sad, it will be depressing, because I am only open to those examples that meet my expectation. So something as simple as opening my mind up and considering that I can move through the world in a different way, it doesn't make it any less, there aren't any less opportunities because of that. And what I began to see is that when I began to open my perception up to what could be possible, regardless of how I moved through the world, wheelchair or not, opportunities were there. Gifts were there. I was completely supported and guided at every turn. And the only thing that really changed was my perception of what was possible. And I'm not just talking about positive affirmations either. I'm talking about adopting the idea that in any moment, there are a million ways to perceive your experience. And if you train your brain to look for what's wrong, that's what you will see. But it doesn't mean that all these other amazing opportunities aren't there. They're there, you're just closed off to them. So I trained my brain to look for the opportunities, to look for the gifts, to look for how I'm supported, to look how I can grow and expand. And when I did that, was it scary? Absolutely. But I just said yes. I just said, you know what? I'm just going to do it. Why not? What's the worst thing that can happen? And I just had so many more incredible things happen in my life that I would never have dreamed possible. I grew in ways I never knew. If you were to, and I also opened up to the supports that were available. And there's a story where there was a point where I was using a walker and I was told over and over again, you know what, you just got to keep walking. You can't use a wheelchair. You got to keep walking. That was just a belief. And so I just thought, okay, I got to keep walking. And one day I was coming back and taking my kids to work. And I was walking down the hall in my condo and I was tired. I had to concentrate on every step. It was exhausting. And at a certain point, I tripped. But the walker saved my fall. So here I was bent over my walker, but I didn't have enough strength to stand up. And I thought, oh gosh, really? So I didn't know, should I fall to the ground? Will I be able to reach the doorknob? Would I be able to get to the door? Should I scream? Should I yell? So somehow I managed to kind of scooch over and I knocked my head on my neighbor's door. I could hear the dog bark and I'm like, oh my gosh, is this really happening? And nobody came to the door. I'm thinking, oh man, they're probably looking out their peephole and they can't see me because I'm bent over. So I'm thinking, okay, so I bang my head again. And he did open the door and he helped me stand up. And I thought, you know what, forget this. I'm getting a wheelchair. This is absolutely ridiculous. that moment I got the wheelchair, my whole world opened up. Because all the time I was spending thinking about tripping and falling and how much energy I have and I'm exhausted. It was completely freed up. I got to listen to the birds. I got to concentrate on what people were saying to me. I got to just enjoy moment to moment, everything that was happening. So if I kept myself closed to the idea of the wheelchair, I would have spent years focusing in on falling and pain and exhaustion, what I can't do, fear. I would have closed myself off to opening a business, starting a new career, socializing in ways I never knew was possible. I even drove across the US by myself from Arizona to Crystal Beach. If I had not had the wheelchair, I would have been too afraid to do that. And so what I've learned now is that whenever I get to a place where I'm feeling restricted or my life is getting smaller, I just invite myself to open up to what's possible. What can I adapt? What can I change so that I can embrace all that life has to offer? Thank you.
That's so good. I think we'll all be asking you at lunch how to open the minds. Jennifer, I know you are a believer in personal health advocacy. You've tried many alternative treatments in attempts to manage your disability. Please list and briefly comment on some of these.
I would say, yes, I'm a big believer in trying broad amounts of things to see what is best for you, and we've heard today a lot of like, no one has the same journey, and no one is going to have the same regimen. But for me,
Jennifer,
yeah.
speak up, please.
Oh, I don't
It's mine.
It's on, I just have to, I gotta go over it.
Oh,
I
okay.
Is that better? Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Thank you.
Okay. So definitely acupuncture was something I used from the very beginning and still do as an ongoing thing. Definitely supplements. I've tried such a wide variety of that. Again, I think you have to figure out what's good for you. And, you know, I tried a lot of different things that I heard about, or that the acupuncturist would recommend, but also now I'm working closer with like a naturopath. I do vitamin IVs, you know, just a variety of different, broad stroke things that are kind of controlled also by blood work. I don't think we know what our body needs necessarily, and if you work with someone and know what your levels are, I think that's also super important. I'm a huge advocate. We've been talking about today about working out and taking care of the body, and so I've always done forms of exercise, and after some recent stints over the last 2 years in the hospital where I had to go into rehab, I'm now working with physiotherapists that are neurological based, and I'm doing some kind of therapy called Toolbox, which is very targeted and very a very different kind of like hands-on kind of therapy that's working very well for me. I also have been recently doing Pilates on a reformer, which, you know, you think, how can we do that? But really it's about finding a team to surround you that is willing to do those things in a safe way, of course. But I do think having the proper team that surrounds you, not just your neurologist and your family doctor, it's all the other people, having the acupuncturist or a chiropractor if that's what you think you need, a naturopath, the physiotherapists, like you have to have the right team that surrounds you, even the people for the AFOs and fixing the chair. This is all, you know, the cumulative, I think, just feeling good. And also the way you eat, that also is, I think, extremely important. The amount of, the kind of food that you take in, I think, I've always been a healthy eater, but I think since I have more time now, I tend to eat much better than I was before. And I'm sleeping more than I was before. I think stress also has a lot to do with the progression of our disease. So, yeah, I think that's all.
Thank you.
So just to summarize, you've tried lots of things, and depending on how you're feeling, you now know what your body needs and what will help it.
And then also, I forgot, actually, I did try actually very alternative things too. I did some stem cell trials as well, which I went abroad for those, which, you know, people can feel one way or the other. For me, it was something that I wanted to try, I wanted to do it. I did it for a certain amount of time until I realized my body wasn't, helping me anymore. But the time that I did it, I thought that it did. Now, of course, that's a therapy that is very expensive, and I had the funds at the time to do it, so I felt like I wanted to try. But I think trying anything in a safe environment that you can see if it works for you, I think is really important.
Okay, thank you. Danika, you participated in the avidity trial last year. Many people are keen to participate in a study. Is there anything you think people should know before participating in the study that you know now?
Yeah, thanks for inviting me to be on the panel. As you heard in my bio, I work for Health Canada, just so you know, I'm not here as a representative of Health Canada. These are my personal experiences and my own opinions. Yeah, I feel really privileged to have been offered a spot in this clinical trial. I know a lot of patients would love to be able to do it. And it's been a really interesting, really positive experience for me. So I do have some things for people to keep in mind. It is a commitment. It's a lot of appointments. I've had to take a lot of time off work, and so I had to get buy-in from my employer on that. It's, if you're planning on traveling, you do need to plan your travel around those study visits. It's a lot of procedures, lots and lots of needle pokes, so many tubes of blood. I probably will have had about 10 MRIs when all is said and done. I completed the blinded first year, and now I'm in the open label extension. And I had to do a couple of muscle biopsies, and let's be honest, it was painful. But, you know, one of the things that has been really helpful for me in getting through a lot of these appointments is I think having a support person with you can be super helpful, especially for some of the big appointments, like the study drug that I'm taking is given by infusion, and I'm there all day long. So just having the company, having somebody to run out and get me lunch. You know, I have had a couple of tough appointments, you know, where things can, like with any clinical trial or any medical care, you can have some hard moments. This is research after all. We are learning about the safety of these drugs. So it is, there's always a possibility you could have a adverse side effect. So, one of the wonderful things about being in a trial is that you're being observed so closely. You're getting the absolute highest level of medical care. If anything goes wrong, they're gonna catch that immediately and take really good care of you. And I did have a couple things that came up, you know, that I was in getting immediate care. I was really impressed with how quickly, like for one thing, I was referred to an immunologist. I couldn't believe how quickly they got me into that. And so and actually I think it's one of the known benefits of being in a trial. Even if you're on a placebo, patients who are in trials tend to do better overall than patients who are not in trials, because you're getting such great care. So, and then of course, a big part of it for me is, and I'm sure for other people who are involved in trials as well, is there's so much happening now, like after so many years of not having much to hope for, there's incredible progress being made right now, and patients play such an important role in that and being in trials. Those trials can't move forward without patients enrolling, and gives me so much hope, not just for myself, but a lot of us have kids who also have FSHD, and we want things to be better for them as well. So honestly, it's been a real honor to be part of it.
And how did it come that you got involved in it?
Dr. Lockmuller, who's one of the investigators on the trial, is my neurologist. So lucky me.
And I do know several other people personally that are in the chapter that even from around this area travel to Ottawa to participate in his study. I know that they recruit often, and you can check out clinicaltrials.gov to see which studies are upcoming, which ones are currently recruiting. And there's a contact person there, Jessica. Is it still? Yes. And you can email her, and she's very responsive to let you know if you can participate in the study. Okay, great. Lori, back to you.
Okay.
You have moved from a 2-story single-family home to a pre-built accessible condo, but ultimately you decide to design and build a fully accessible home, which includes a backyard swim spa. Do you have any suggestions to make housing transitions easier for people?
Best thing I ever did was find out what I don't want. And it was, I moved to the 2-story from a bungalow actually, because I wanted to constantly push myself to move and to do the stairs, even though it took me a long time. But I think it was important for me to keep as active as possible. It became a problem for me. I started to see that when I was spending more time thinking about what I didn't want to do because it was too much work, like if I sit down, then I'm gonna have to get up. So do I have to go pee now? Because I should do that. Like, so my whole day started to revolve around what I didn't want to do. And I thought, okay, it's time. So I moved from that 2-story home. I moved to a condo thinking that's what people do when you have disabilities. And I thought, I'm all on one floor, no yard work, but you park in an underground garage, you have to go through like 2 or 3 doors that are really super heavy. You gotta cart everything up that elevator, down the hall, open your own door. And I'm like, it was way easier having a garage. So, there were lots of things I liked about the condo, but there were so many things that I missed. I missed being on the ground. I missed, being outside and sitting and having my private space. And those maintenance fees, I'm sorry, but I can buy a lot of grass cuts and a lot of snow shoveling and window cleaning, and it never came to the amount I was spending on those maintenance fees. So I started to think, okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go around, I'm gonna find developers who are building houses and ask them if they would be open to modifying them. And it was in that process, I gathered probably 20 different houses that I considered modifiable. And I was also looking for an elevation that would not require any ramping from the outside to the inside. I also had a requirement that I wanted a 2-car garage because I wanted to be able to pull in and deploy from my ramp. And I wanted all these things to happen so that I didn't have to have add-ons. And what I found is through this process is I took out a piece of graph paper and I just started planning my perfect house. And I thought, okay, well, it's gonna have, no ramping, no stairs to the front door. It's gonna have an easy ramp from the garage. It's going to have a little bit of a backyard and, accessible bathroom. And I just, to the point where every single door or hallway, or even the type of flooring I put in, like ceramic tile, is going to be for me. and it's gonna make my day move in such a way that I won't be thinking about this stuff all day long. It's just gonna work. And, I never found a subdivision builder that would do it. I ended up going to a small community in Crystal Beach and, found a real estate agent, and he says, hey, what about this? And he showed me a lot. He says, I got a builder that'll build whatever you want. And so I handed him my plan and he did it. So I believe I have the perfect house. I mean, it's completely made for me. It has, everything, including a swim spa in the back. So I was going to Aquafit. So like Jen, I just think whatever you can do physically is in your best interest. But it got to a point where it's getting a little unsafe for me to get into the pool and out. And I advocated for a lift at the local pool, and that wasn't moving. So got a swim spa, and I'm telling you, it's sweet. I have a lift that I roll up to, I transfer onto, it lifts me up into the swim spa. I've got a cover on the swim spa that lifts up with the turn of a key. So I can do it on my own, and I have. I have had incidences where the lift didn't work, suspended above the swim spa in the middle of winter. But again, you know, you just trust that, you know, stuff happens, but if you keep calm and you just know that I'm going to get off that chair one way or another, I just don't know how in that moment. And, you know, sure enough, a friend was able to figure out how to make that happen, and it resolved itself. So for the one time that I got stuck, you know, hundreds of times I've spent enjoying the swim spa, especially when I was walking. I was using the chair, but I could walk in the water because the swim spa is deeper. And that was awesome. So yeah, I think that anything's possible. And I think my best advice is don't restrict yourself to what everybody else has done or says. Because you know what, this is your life, and do what you want to do because it feels right for you. And when you do that, I think that just you become more able to listen to that inner wisdom more and more, because it gets louder and louder. And you just recognize that you are the expert of you. Thank you.
Jennifer, in talking with individuals who have FSHD, they often mention that their social bandwidth diminished as their disability progressed. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, this is absolutely a truth and something that I am living, obviously. Because of the world I built my career around, I was extremely social in events, and out all the time, and I was traveling abroad, traveling internationally, like every 6 to 8 weeks, you know. And so as the disease progressed, of course, those things started to slide backwards, but I always had a solid friend base, including friends with FSH, but majority of them were able-bodied. I think when COVID hit, and then people were sequestered, and then people came back out again, even the general public, I think, it feels a separation amongst socializing, right? But I think for someone with a disability, and now me in a chair, I can see, and then as I get older, that's the other thing, I see this slow push back of people that you thought were these really amazing friends or has been in your life for 20 years or something, and they start to go away. I think part of that was I was hospitalized. I think people also get freaked out about that. They worry about their own, they want to protect themselves, and they don't want to necessarily deal, I think, with your issues because they're scared of something happening to themselves. I really think it's a psychological shift that happens. And it was very shocking for me. And in the last couple of years, yes, lost some very, very, what I thought were very good friends. On the other side of that, I think as you get older, you realize, okay, well, they don't want to be in my life. They don't want to be, you know, you can be sad about it. Obviously, you grieve those friend losses, but I think it's important to have fewer people maybe that are disrespectful of what you're going through and then want to be on that journey with you. But definitely as I progress now, I know that I also have to widen my social my social avenues. That's what shall I say, to find new groups of people, maybe people that are also dealing with disability. And because I think it is hard as you age for people to watch you progress. I think it's hard on your families, and I think it's hard on your friends. That's just
And when you have, you say recently reached out or looked for new friendships, how do you do that?
yeah, good. It's my new plan for the spring. So I don't know, I have some great ideas. I think that there is, I don't think I have tapped into some of the sites or the disability connections that are out there. Yeah, it's like a new hunt for social action.
Yeah.
And it's hard to find like-minded people, you know. I'm not I think like on the panel here, I'm not, I'm a very positive person. I don't want to be talking about or dealing, you know, necessarily with a disability. I just want to go shopping. You got, you know, the things that you normally would do, right? So, yeah, I'll keep you posted. I don't know.
Thank you. Danika, it's been important for you to stay physically active on a regular basis over the long haul. Could you tell us a little bit about the activities you participate in and adaptations or modifications that you use in order to continue to do the things that you love, and how you stay motivated despite challenges?
Yeah, so exercise is a big topic today. So I'm going to kind of reiterate, I think, some of what has already been said. We've already gotten a lot of really great advice and suggestions. I'm not a trainer or an athlete or anything like that. I'm just someone who's always enjoyed being active. And so over the years, I've gone through a lot of trial and error, trying to continue doing the things that I love to do. So I just thought I would share some of what I've learned along the way. The first thing I want to just acknowledge is that it's hard, right? Like it's hard. Even for someone who doesn't have a neuromuscular disease, it's a challenge to stay active and keep at it over the long haul. When you have FSHD, it just adds another layer of difficulty. And, you know, I'm fortunate that my symptoms are not very severe, but I've had my share of days in the gym where I'm all weepy because I tried to do something and discovered I can't do it anymore, right? So I think it's just important for us to give ourselves grace and acknowledge that we're doing something that's really hard. At the same time, we do know that it's important for us to stay active and that being sedentary could actually be harmful for us. So there are these recommendations about how we can do that. But of course, all of us in the room, it's so different. How do we apply it to ourselves individually? Even on your left side versus the right side of your body, it might be different, right? So that's why I think working with a physiotherapist that's kind of my big recommendation, is just get out there and find yourself a professional to help you. I've worked with several physiotherapists and kinesiologists also over the years. It's been massively helpful. They begin with a detailed assessment of where you are, what your abilities are, where you're strong, where you're weak, what your goals are, and then tailor a workout to what your needs are. And they're very creative in adapting things so that you can do them. I'm working with a kinesiologist now. He's been able to give me some adaptations that allow me to move my body in a way that I didn't think I could anymore. And it feels amazing, and because it feels so good, and I guess having it feel good, that's sort of my bottom line, right? Like making sure that I'm not going to injure myself. Of course, my kinesiologist he's challenging me, making sure I'm doing exercises that are challenging, so I'm making progress, but I'm not putting myself at risk of injury. And because it feels good, I enjoy it, and it keeps me motivated. Right? If it's not fun, you're not going to want to do it over the long haul. So, and I told my kinesiologist from the get-go, I'm like, I've given up so many times in my life and gotten back on the horse, and I need you to help me with motivation. And so he checks in with me all the time. How are you feeling? How are the exercises feeling? And I went, you know what? This one makes me feel really bummed because it's so freaking hard. I don't want to do it anymore. No problem. We're ditching it and doing something else that's more fun, right? So it's been hugely helpful for me. And also as far as motivation, when somebody tells you, well, you should exercise, okay, yeah, I know. One of the things that's gotten me back to it after all the times I've given up over the years is that I don't want to miss out on how much better I feel when I do it. And let's recognize, like, mental health wise, it's helpful. I definitely notice a benefit. When you're dealing with a neuromuscular disease that affects your quality of life, you might have some mental health issues, and being active is helpful. I definitely notice a difference. I don't think I'm necessarily getting any stronger. I'm 55, so I think I'm at that age where, the plane is descending rather than taking off. But I do feel like the neuromuscular connection for me feels stronger when I'm exercising regularly. Like I can feel where my muscles are. I'm so much more confident that I can call on them when I need to. And so when I'm just out and about doing my regular activities, I feel a lot better. I just feel more confident. So yeah. And I got these ankle orthoses, user devices. These are a game changer for walking. I've always liked walking for exercise. When I have these on, I have yet to trip and fall. I have lots of falls before. But with these on, I can just focus on enjoying the walk. It's awesome. And my partner is like, your gait is completely different when you have those on. It's amazing. Yeah. And sometimes I'll use poles when I even train or really train. Yeah, so that's my little story. And I think, just let's give ourselves a pat on the back for doing what we can.
No, I think that's great. Thank you. This is to any other panel members. The downside or difficulties of navigating the world with FSH are often discussed. Are there any pluses or positives you feel are a direct result of the dystrophy?
I think the plus for me is that I was a person that didn't realize I was living most of my life stressed out due to circumstances beyond my control. And in my 20s, when I was diagnosed with MD, I just kind of kept on going and ignored it, just like I pretty well ignored everything else. And it was the result of me having to leave my job as a teacher and staying at home and not really being the mother that I thought I was supposed to be. And I got to this really low place that I started to go inward and work on me, work on my belief system, work on how I was moving through the world. And it was that work that has totally transformed my life. I can't tell you. I had no idea, but I believe that we're supposed to live life from our natural state of peace and calm. And I believe that's what we're all supposed to do. And I didn't even know that existed. And once I was able to recognize that, so that now that's my guiding post. And I use that to indicate to me that what I'm doing, I'm on the right track, or what I'm doing is not serving me, and to make decisions to do things differently. So if I didn't have FSH, I'm not sure I would have discovered that, because I would have just kept myself busy. I would have kept myself doing life. I would have raised kids, just kept really, really busy, so I didn't have to feel. But FSH made me feel, and I'm really super grateful for that, because I think I'm living a more deeply connected version of me than I would have had otherwise.
For me, when I was diagnosed, I was just really mad at that disease. So it turned into motivation for me. And I just worked extra hard, because you do have to work extra hard for people to recognize you and people to respect you. You kind of have to push a little further. And so it got me to a very high place as far as my career, but at some point, I did the same as Lori, and you have to kind of meet it where it is, right? When I say it, I mean at the stage. And I went through a lot of therapy. I did that for a number of years and just reconnected with myself and kind of came to terms with the condition. And yeah, then I had this balance of drive but acceptance. And I think every day we have to learn acceptance, because every day we're dealing with another loss, right? Another decline, not every day, but throughout the course. And I think you just have to recognize that that's happening and then decide how you're going to deal with it. And for me, positivity and being motivated is what is beneficial for me.
Yeah, that inner fire. Right, I'm gonna wrap up with a really quick question for everyone here. Looking back on your initial diagnosis and knowing what you know now, is there something you would, is there something you would tell yourself about the future?
Start with you, yeah.
I was diagnosed in the late 80s, when it was a really different world than it is now. You know, there wasn't much out there as far as resources. But if I was a young person being diagnosed now, I would say tap into all the resources that the FSHD Society has to offer. There's so much happening. You can do so much to educate yourself. I know I'm preaching to the converted here. We're all here educating ourselves, but I spent, there was 35 years where I had nothing from the time of my diagnosis, to not even a doctor who could tell me anything about it, really. And it's so amazing I have all these resources. And I'm still catching up, with all of that. Another thing I wish I had done a little differently is, I was, talking about exercise. As a young person, I spent all my time doing cardio. Why didn't I do more resistance exercise and build muscle while I could? Now I feel like it's too late. I could have built that base, and so that's what I was telling my kids. So build muscle while you can.
Great.
I'd say take your foot off the brake
Um,
and just, just trust. I mean, all the worrying did nothing but take away from what was the joy in the moment, and it didn't help at all. Nothing, none of it. And I ended up, I'd say you're gonna live a bigger, greater, more magnificent life than you could ever imagine possible. That you just gotta be open to it.
I would say I would probably want to be more open earlier with what I was dealing with, because I think I hid it in a way for a very, very long time. As much as I mentally thought I was hiding it, I'm not sure I was physically hiding it. But it wasn't something that I wanted to talk about, or that people felt they could approach to talk about. So I just kind of pretended it wasn't happening for a bit there of my life, and I wish I had paid attention to it earlier.
This was my favorite part so far. Thank you for coming here. Thank you for, the phone calls and the emails with Anne, and putting yourself out there by being up here on stage, sharing your experience. And I know everyone has probably learned a few things that will be helpful to them. Thank you. And now it's time to eat.